Alright, this is DC Challenge 3. I hated this. This has been a momentum killer for a few days. I've kept going. It's time to do this one. And then I have struggled to get past the first pages. The idea of this book is that it is different creative teams every issue, and they are trying to continue a story without any communication or plans. It sounds better than it has been. So far, what it has amounted to is writers avoiding moving the story on and instead just bringing in their favourite characters, from big stars to the Viking Prince. No disrespect to the Viking Prince. In fact, that was the only investment I felt in the issue. I saw him and went, where do I know the Viking Prince from? I mean, yeah, it was who, obviously, but I knew him from somewhere. I remember him being in a story. After 10 minutes of thinking on it, I realised it was the crossover Endless Winter. What may be the first ever fill-in crossover event. It was like they went, oops, we forgot to plan a crossover for this quarter. We better slap one together quick. A lot of the books involved Justice League, Superman, Wonder Woman, The Flask. They were between creative teams. It really is the first ever fill-in crossover event. You can tell because it was definitely 2020's hottest and most in-demand writer, Ron Marsgirl. They got him to pen it. Viking Prince was part of the lore in the Bad story. One of those things I read illegally in my spare time. To be honest, I would rather talk about Endless Winter than DC Challenge 3. Part of the problem, a lot of the problem, is that we had a bad start. And the first part is integral to this experiment. The first part is where a person presents ideas for everyone else to build on. And our first writer wasn't really a writer. So now we have what I am guessing is going to be 12 parts of people having to build on this rubbish setup with boring, evil demon ghosts and dead celebrities from the 40s and 50s. So then you have what this boils down to, which is a writer using it to, rather than tell the story, expand the story by dragging in more characters. This chapter is by Doggy Moench and Carmine Falcone. Doggy Moench is best known as a long-term Batman writer. He wrote lots and lots of Batman. He's also known as the co-creator of Moon Man at Marvel. Wrote almost all of Master of Kung Fu. Something else he should be noted for is that he has his thing. Batman, Moon Man, stuff like that. Whenever he plays outside of that field, it's quite disastrous. Thor, Spectre, that one Justice League story with an amazing cover that is then god-awful, pun intended there, god-awful, act of God. He also wrote an adaptation of The Invisible Man in Marvel Classics. Just pointing that out. And then Carmine Falcone is a veteran DC artist. He also had a very prolific career at Marvel in the 70s. where a lot of people don't appreciate his work. I've talked about him in reviews of Spider-Girl, so I won't get too into him here. The point that I want to make is that Doggy Moench probably wasn't the writer to involve in this project, unless it was an issue about Batman. Ironically, he would have been a better pick for issue 2, where the cliffhanger to resolve was Batman related. There is Batman there. Hello, Batman. How are the Batarangs? We have a recap here. Each issue of this ends with a cliffhanger that the next writer has to solve. I don't remember what issue 2's cliffhanger was exactly, and I don't think Doggy Moench knows either. This issue is an assortment of unrelated bits. There's no story being told, really. We have Mongoloid in space, that is 3 panels. We have Josh Brolin, he is in the present day, he's in a taxi. Everything here is just boring and shitty, and it goes nowhere. It really doesn't feel like a comic, this issue. And here is that thing. And it really makes a case that this series, the idea of the series, is for the creators and not the readers. I don't get the feeling Doggy Moench was writing this and ever thinking about a reader. He was strictly thinking of it like a thing that maybe share around the office. I never thought I would say this. When I got this series, I never thought I would say so, but Commandy Challenge, honestly, maybe, truly, did handle the experiment better. I get a bit conscious sometimes that I might not be explaining a story or what is happening, or that I'm being incredibly unhelpful in my summary. I know I have mentioned scant plot, and that is the issue. What it's doing is extending onto plot from the previous issue. There's no new developments, not really. There's stuff that happens, but it is inconsequential or it is random. The villains are shit. I'm fed up of seeing this purple manticore twat. 3 issues and this is still our central villain. I thought, I'll cut it some slack. Maybe it is a Wonder Woman villain from before Christmas on Infinite Earths that I just don't know. But I looked it up now. It is an original character for this series. No personality or motivation whatsoever. Completely fucking dull. And yeah, we're just bringing in more characters. Stephen Hawkman and Orkin Girl. Do something with the ones you have already got in the story. I think my biggest gripe with DC Challenge is I often think of things in relation to how I would handle it. Straight away, one of the first things I would recognise is that bringing in a character isn't telling a story. It's not a story to just keep adding more and more characters while not progressing an actual narrative. Interestingly, I don't think Doggy Moench has any history of writing Stephen Hawkman or Orkin Girl before or after this. Stephen, with Girl in tow, will debut a new series not long after DC Challenge. And there's the Shadow War of Stephen Hawkman. I think that comes before that ongoing. But Doggy Moench will not be involved with either. If you don't know, the writer of those series has transitioned. Feel free to post messages of support or hate-filled comments down below. But I do want to contend that in the past, when I have referred to them as Mrs. Tony Isabella, it was simply because I only ever knew the name for a while, and I thought it was a woman. I thought it was a woman's name, Tony Isabella. If anything, I was ahead of the curve. It's like I knew who they really were, or who they really wanted to be. Progressive, yeah? Ally. Anything is more of a discussion than this issue. Really didn't like this. I would even rate it below the first one. The first one was bad because of its lack of creativity, but I expected that from Mark Evanier. To see an actual writer display even less creativity is actively depressing. Reet, one of the best bits of the second issue was the quick Acroman tease. We had Acroman stranded in a desert, dying from dehydration. It was hands down the best part of DC Challenge so far. It felt like an idea someone dreamt up, and it was tailor-made for this series. Want to know how it resolves? Oh, he goes for a swim a few feet away. Fuck this. This is the absolute nadir of imagination. I don't hold it against Doggy Moench, really. I don't hold it against Mark Evanier. It's an idea for a series, and they just didn't get the right type of writers. I don't think 1985 DC was filled with that many writers that would relish in and understand the true scope of the assignment. Wait on it a few years. I think there's people that would bring this to life in an exciting way. That Acroman bit made me want to tear this up, but instead I'll give this issue 2025's belated Golden Splat Award 7 thumbs up.